Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me in this talk, Use Chucker to Catch 'em All. And I guess we're going to start with a little video just to set the stage. Awesome. Did anyone get from which game was this? I heard it. No, it's not gold. It's silver. It's my favorite Pokemon game. And yeah, like today's talk is not going to be about Pokemon, but I will be making some references, so maybe you folks will get it. Today's talk is going to be using Chucker to catch 'em all. And when I say catch 'em all, I mean HTTP requests. So mandatory slide about myself before I start. My name is Nicola Corti. I'm a Kotlin GDE. I'm also the maintainer of Chucker, which is the library that we're going to talk about today. And you can find me online as Cortinico on Twitter and GitHub. And also, shameless plug, I run a podcast. It's called The Developers Bakery. It's all about open source. Yeah, I have stickers with me, so stop me afterwards. And please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Ring the bell, do whatever. Make sure you listen to those episodes. And with these, I guess we can get started. And so what is Chucker? Chucker is an on-device network debugger. And it will help you catch them all, those HTTP requests. Practically, what it does, it intercepts all of your Nectar requests and will help you see what's going on with your device. If, like, for example, Nectar request failed, you can see it immediately. And it's a little bit hard for me to actually explain it just by telling it. So I'd rather show you like a video of how Chucker works. So we do have a sample app. And yeah, just open the sample app. I do some random HTTP activity. And it pops up with a push notification that you can click. And you will see all the HTTP requests and responses that your app did. You can click on each one of them. And you can look through the request and the response. And see what's, for example, this is an XML response. And you can see what's inside and look at all the headers and so on. How do you actually use Chucker? So Chucker is open source. You can find it on GitHub at chuckerteam/Chucker. And as with every library on Android, you will have to add a couple of dependencies. So in this case, there are two. First one is a debug version of the library, which is just called library. And then you will have a release implementation of the library, which is called library no op. This is quite important because you don't want to ship this debugger to your users. Like, they should not be able to see that. So that's why we provide this no-op variant of the library, which does nothing. It's just like transparent. And how do you use it? So Chucker is effectively an OK HTTP interceptor. So where you create your library, you will have, dependency injection framework. Somewhere your HTTP client is created. And over there, you just add the Chucker interceptor and provide the Android context. That's it. It's just like those lines. And to make this talk a little bit more spicy, I actually just didn't want to show the sample app over and over. Because, I mean, yeah, we do some traffic, some sample requests. But I wanted a little bit more like a real-world scenarios. And yeah, like, if you ever experienced this, just quite annoying. You find like wild Pokemons in the wild, you know that something that turned out to be really useful is to have a Pokédex, because you know like which kind of Pokemon you have out there. So that's why I took a Pokédex from GitHub. Specifically, I took the one from Skydoves, which is actually really great sample app. It shows like a lot of great pattern from Android. So it's also like quite of a simple code base to look through. And I did it a little bit, the app, and I had the tracker over there. So what it means is that now I can actually open the Pokédex, and it just loads some of the sprites for every Pokemon, and you can click through. And I will have a push notification where I can click through and see the traffic that this app did. In this case, it loaded 10 sprites, plus it loaded, made an API request to load a JSON response that contains all the Pokemons, the first 10 Pokemons. So in this case, this app is using pagination and is doing things quite well. For example, I can look into one of the image requests, and I can see that they loaded the sprite for Charizard, which is awesome. So this library also comes with some features out of the box. First is API 21 plus compatible, so most of the apps out there should be able to use it. It works well with OkHttp 5. So the library actually builds on OkHttp 4, but we don't use any of the internal APIs, so you should be able to use OkHttp 5 without major problem. We do offer this no-op artifact, which is something like other libraries like Lick Canary do as well. The deal behind this artifact is that you can also use it, for example, for your tests. Maybe you have UI tests and you don't want like notifications to like mess up with your UI tests, so you can use that artifact for your testing variant. The network requests are persisted on disk. It means that if you kill your app and you reopen it and you reopen Chucker, you will see the previous requests that were fired like in the previous sessions. We also automatically decode the body, like if you do compressions or whatever, like we try to be as smart as possible to display meaningful information to the developer. And finally, Chucker also allows to export requests to file. It means that you can effectively like save a file that contains the request and response. And this is quite useful, for example, if you have a QA team, you give them the debug app, or you give them like a testing variant that contains Chucker, and the app crashes, they can actually open Chucker and send you a dump of all the requests that happened when the app crashed in that specific instance. So it's a tool that you can like integrate as part of your development and testing workflow. Another cool feature now with tablets, this is going to be awesome, is like multi-window. It means that you can actually run your application and Chucker side by side because they run into different activities. So this actually allows you to like really appreciate how Pokédex is well written. For example, here I restarted, I wiped Chucker, so there are no requests yet. But if I scroll down a little bit more, it will start to make network requests. And if I scroll down faster, this app is implemented well because some requests are actually canceled, like the red one. I don't need to load sprites that the user will never see. And so you can really see how the app is behaving in real time. Like here is loading JSON. Or for example, another interesting thing is like this sprite is half loaded, because by the time it got loaded, the user scrolled away, so that image was not needed to be loaded anymore. So you really get a real-time, most real-time information of how your networking is behaving with your application. How do you configure Chucker? So we offer like quite of a simple API. As I said before, it's an interceptor, but that interceptor can be configured a little bit. So it has a builder API, and there you can specify things like the max content length. So we offer truncation of responses. If they're like too big, we're not going to read all of them. We're just going to pass over. We offer possibility to redact headers. For example, if you don't want your auth token to be visible in plain text inside Chucker, we're going to redact that for you if you tell us which headers should be redacted. We offer possibility to always read the response body. This gets a little bit more complicated because of how OkHttp interceptors work. But yeah, practically if, for example, on retrofit, you have functions that return a response of void, retrofit is not going to consume the body because there is nothing to read. we can tell Chakra to actually always read whatever passes through the network. And finally, you can also specify a collector, which is another component of the library, which it also can be configured further. In its context, it allows to toggle if you want to see notifications or not. You can let it work in this silent mode, so the notifications will never pop up, but you can have an entry in your debug menu where you open the Chakra UI. And also you can specify how long the network information should be retained inside the database. For example, like 1 hour, 1 day, and so on. And we're going to do like some cleanup of the DB to not let your application explode, because we're going to save basically everything that passed through the network. So the reason why I'm making this talk also is because over the weekend, I actually released Chakra v4. And this is yeah, what I call conference-driven development. Because I'm so sorry, the latest stable of Chakra was released in 2021, and I really haven't had the time to sort of, procrastination and things. But yeah, I said like, okay, I'm gonna make a talk about it, DryCon Berlin, because then I will also force myself to cut this release. So now I want to talk about some of the features that we introduced that are specific to 4.0 that, well, if you're not on 4.0, you should be using that. If you are on a snapshot, please move on a stable release. Like, a lot of people have been, over the year, using snapshots, which is, I understand it's my fault. I should have released more often. But this is stable, and use it. So one of the features that we worked on is beta support for JSON. So we do syntax aligning if the response is a JSON. And well, this might sound obvious for you, especially because you always look at an IDE, which does that things like over and over. But imagine that like is a string, and it goes inside like a text view, which it's quite of a pain to beautify. And also we added beta support for search. So now if you start to search for something in the response, we're gonna scroll to the first occurrence, show you how many occurrences are there, and provide you nice arrows to go back and forth. Again, normally eyes that you will have in IDEs, but trust me, replacing them, replicating them on device is quite painful. But yeah, we hope this will make the experience with Chakra generally better for everyone. Another feature that we worked on is decoding. As I was saying before, we decode requests and responses if they're compressed. So we support JIT-zip. That was also supported in the previous version of Chakra. But we now also support Brotli, which is a new way of compressing requests and responses. And we also offer support for custom decoding and encoding. For example, if you do have your own protocol, and you send binaries over the network in your own way, you can now configure Chakra so that that information will be actually visible as a human-readable string. How do you do that? We provide a simple API called body decoder that you can customize. So here, for example, I create my custom decoder, and there are 2 functions to implement. One is called decode request, which it gets a request and the byte string, and needs to return like a string in output. So you will be responsible of doing the decoding there, and similarly decoding the response. Another feature that was highly requested and we slowly introduced is better support for GraphQL. So if you're doing GraphQL, which I believe like a lot of apps in the latest year I've been doing, now we also show this nice icon next to the request that has been identified as a potential GraphQL request. Identifying GraphQL requests is quite a bit of a tricky thing because they're like HTTP requests at the end of the day. So we do like a couple of heuristics. First, if you use Apollo GraphQL, there is a header called operation name, and if we find it, we also add it in the request list. Like, for example, the first one is search characters. And for the second one, where the header is not specified, we assume there is a GraphQL if we find GraphQL in the path or in the host name. So if you have like graphql.api.whatever, that is most likely a GraphQL API. And we're going to show it to you. Another feature that has been greatly improved is support for exporting, as I was saying before. So if you open like the response tab, you would see there are like a couple of icons on top. The one on the right is the floppy disk icon, will allow you to save the body to file, while the share icon will open the share menu, which allows you to share the whole request and response in multiple formats. One notable addition was the last one, which is support for HAR, which is a format for sharing network requests. So you can technically extract it. Like you can save that file, and you can open Chrome debugger and import it there, or you can open Charles proxy and import it there. So it's a standard for like sharing network debugging informations, which now we also support. Yeah, and also Android 13 comes with a lot of changes for notifications. So in the latest release, we added a couple of new features. First, we now add support for shortcuts. So if you long-click on the icon, you will have one shortcut in the debug app, which is called Open Chucker, and from there, you can just open the UI of Chucker. And also, we do a little bit of, we do better support for notification permissions. So from Android 13, you need to explicitly request the notification permission as Chucker relies on notifications. We also, are blocked by that. So if your application doesn't request that specific notification, there is a section in the README that explains you how to request it and how Chucker can help you with that. This is also 4.0 because we actually removed some things, so there are breaking changes. The most notable one is the removal of the exception feature. So historically, Chucker used to be used also for reporting exceptions. So you could, whenever there is an exception, report it to Chucker, and you could see that there. And yeah, we ran a survey. This felt like misplaced, probably within Chucker. Chucker is a network debugging tool. This is probably you don't want to see the stack trace on device also. Maybe you want to see it on different reporting tools. So we just remove it completely. So that thing is gone. And if you were using it, I'm sorry. So far, many people screamed at us. So I think it's fine. And it also reduced a lot of the surface area for us of things to maintain. And with these, I want to add a couple of final notes. First, I hope you take care of your open source library as much as you will take care of your Pokemon. So this is, again, an open source library. I am, we are a group of maintainers. I'm the most active one. So yeah, we do have an open collective where you can donate. If this tool is helping you in the development workflow, you can ask your organization to donate on your behalf on the libraries that you're using. So please consider making donations to the open source ecosystem. And yeah, I'm also looking for maintainers. I maintain a lot of other things, and this is yet another project to maintain. I'll be happy to onboard other people on this. This is quite of a small and self-contained project. It's all Android, it's all Kotlin, and yeah, if someone is interested in growing this, I have some ideas for 5.0. If someone wants to discuss about it, please drop me a message. And I also hope to see you on Friday, especially if you're interested in talking more about open source. I'll be moderating a panel at 1:25 p.m. in the room Lovelace, which is called From User to Maintainers, Tales from the Open Source World. So it's going to be me plus those other 3 amazing people, and we'll all more or less have some degree of experience with open source. So we will be telling stories of how we started and so on. And I hope I inspired someone to do a little bit of open source even today. And with this, I want to thank you very much for listening. You can find the library at Chucker Team Chucker. You can find me online as Corti Nico, and good luck catching up all of your HTTP requests.